everybody, it's Queen of Light 1111. Welcome back to Step Into the Light with Queen of Light 1111 and with Sunana, episode 2.
Hey everyone, super happy to be back. So let's talk about the twin flame journey from the perspectives of the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
Yes, we should. We alluded to a lot of different things in the last video, and so today, like Sunana said, let's talk about the different perspectives. So I want to cover this, Sunana, in 3 different segments, okay? Per masculine, per feminine. So what I want to do is just to kind of break it down and make it easy for someone who doesn't really know. I want to start with what an unawakened masculine and feminine looks like.
Okay.
I want to see, and then I want to go to segment 2, which is what does an awakened masculine and feminine look like. And then 3, I want to break it down to what that union energy looks like in the form of the divine feminist who becomes the empress and the masculine who becomes the emperor. And before I get into it, I just want to remind everybody that when we say terms like divine masculine and divine feminine, that they're not necessarily gender-based. Both of those energies reside in each of us. We both have masculine and feminine energies within ourselves. And that is the energy that we are unifying on this twin flame journey.
So let's get into what an unawakened feminine looks like.
Yeah.
What are some of her traits?
Okay, so an unawakened divine feminine. So when we're in this bubble phase that I alluded to earlier, right? So when the masculine and feminine are in the bubble phase, the only energy that's really awakened at this time. Now, so listen, some people could have been spiritual beforehand, but their true awakening doesn't really get triggered until they meet their twin, right? And in that bubble phase, we have that instant recognition, that connection that's like no other, this extreme loving feelings, that feeling of home, feeling of safety. And then as the feminine is experiencing that with the twin, okay, wanting to be together, wanting to take things to the next level, what happens in the bubble phase while they're unawakened is that at some point in that bubble that those feelings will start to climax, right? And when I say climax, I mean all of a sudden it's not just this beautiful whirlwind anymore, okay? The triggering then begins because, again, this is a journey of healing.
So what are her triggers?
Yeah, good question. So triggers are different for everybody. It kind of depends what kind of wounds that we need to heal that we've had in our 3D lives, in this life or in the past. But some typical triggers could be codependency, self-worth issues, where they come out in the form of clinginess, they come in the form of chasing, they come in the form of like overgiving, over-serving. They also could be in the form of just closing up, not being in your heart space, right? Like, oh, if the masculine's going to do that, you go into hate mode or you go into this energy that's like low vibrational. So there's a lot of different ways that triggers can manifest in the connection. And that starts to then affect the connection from a place where it starts to trigger both partners and starts to lead to this imbalance in the connection where the energy shifts from, oh my God, we're both in love, to I need to pull away a little bit, right?
Yeah, so what about the masculine? What are his triggers?
Yeah, right. So good. Let's keep that on balance so we can kind of look at them parallel. Mm-hmm. So the masculine energy, you guys, for those of you who watch my readings, know that the masculine energy is the yang energy in the connection, right? So if you think about the sun and the moon, right? The sun is the yang, the sun is creative, the moon is passive, the moon is intuitive. So the feminine is that yin energy. And we'll talk more about that later. But I'm only bringing this up because I want to explain this masculine's energy when they're unawakened, because it's like everything has to do with feeling and energy and creation. So an unawakened masculine, right? So they're also feeling this strong, very physical attraction. So remember, when this bubble phase, not only is the feminine feeling this physical attraction, but she's more like, oh my God, I'm so in love, blah, 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 right? But the masculine's like, oh my God, I have intense feelings too, but I have this strong physical reaction. She's like very familiar to me. I want to keep her safe. She feels like home. It's all of that kind of same intensity, but for the masculine, it's very physical. like to the touch, to the intimacy, to I want to protect, I want to, do things, I want to build something, I want to marry you. It's all this active energy, right? Where the feminine's kind of like, oh my God, like I just met you and you want to marry me and have kids, like. So it's kind of that kind of active, very fierce energy, which is what that yang energy is. So that's what that awakened energy is. But then as the feminine starts to trigger him and they start to trigger each other, right? So now the masculine's triggers, because you asked me for the feminine, so I'm going to tell you what the masculine's triggers look like. Okay. The masculine's triggers start to, like what the feminine does, if she's clingy or she gets mean or she gets chases him too much, or he'll like block her or he'll like completely ghost her. And it's because that energy starts to remind him of things in past relationships, maybe some inner child wounds, maybe in the way that he was raised. And there's also this energy where if she becomes clingy, it repels him, right? And then this is also the stage that maybe third parties or karmics can be revealed, where it's like, oh my God, yeah, I was in love with you, I am in love with you, but oh, by the way, I'm married, or I have a girlfriend, or I'm still trying to get out of a relationship. I know, right?
Yes.
I know. You guys can't see her, but her mouth's like wide open. But yeah, that's what happens. And so the more this dynamic happens of this, like this triggering and this running and chasing, right? Like the masculine's trying to run or trying to, get away from the feminine's energy. This is what happens, right? They start to repel each other and go into, sometimes, well, most times actually, separation.
So what does an awakened feminine look like?
An awakened feminine. Okay. So after the feminine goes through this run or chaser phase, right? When she's in this kind of discord, this disagreement, when she's like feeling like the rug has been pulled from under her, when she's kind of in this energy of, trying to understand, right? Because she goes from this energy of clinging and chasing to like, what is happening to me energy. She's kind of forced to awaken. She's forced to seek guidance. She's forced to go within, that yin energy, forced to go within herself to really understand, right? And in most cases, what happens is, this masculine, everything that he has done in his reaction to her and in his treatment of her is frankly for her healing, okay? For her awakening. So what that looks like, she'll start to maybe experience ascension symptoms, right? In awakening, there's ascension, right? And ascension symptoms can come in the form of like ears ringing. It could come in the form of and again, like if any of you have physical issues, make sure you get the doctor to check you out first. But ascension symptoms are real. And sometimes, like for me, for example, when I was going through my ascension, I would have these heart palpitations, or like they would come out of nowhere and flutters, and sometimes even anxiety or this like flushed energy, definitely ears ringing, headaches. And I've been to every neurologist, cardiologist, to the what's that, ear doctor, ENT, and people couldn't find anything wrong with me. It's because I was going through ascension. I literally went to doctors for like a year and a half trying to figure out if something was physically wrong with me. Yeah. Turns out it was absolutely an awakening and the ascension. And so now that she realizes, hey, these physical symptoms are the root of a spiritual awakening, then the ear ringing kind of stops. Once you start to understand that your guides are trying to send you a message, you'll start to see the signs and the synchronicities and words and music and numbers. And those are all the things that that spirit and your spirit guides and your angels are telling you that you're not crazy. It's part of this awakening, right? And so this awakening then further is aligned with, people get readings, people go to coaches, people go to webinars. They're trying to understand what they're going through. And everything has to do with this improvement of self from the inside out. Okay, you'll see a lot of feminines that are in this awakening that really, as they heal themselves on the inside, come out with a completely different glow on the outside. Like the energy, it completely shifts within them and it then shifts outside of them. An awakened feminine puts very healthy boundaries in her life, right? Even with her own masculine, because she starts to understand her self-worth. She understands that she needs to fill her own cup. She understands that there's this energy of alignment that she wants to be in. So you might even see feminines who are awakening stop, they might have these careers that they've been at for years, and all of a sudden it doesn't align with them anymore. Friends that they've been friends with for, the other friends that they've been friends with for decades, all of a sudden the vibrational match isn't there anymore. So she'll start to shed a lot of things in the 3D, because as she rises in her awakening, they just don't match with her anymore.
A lot of divine feminines change careers.
Yeah, when they're going through this awakening, for example, I was, a chief operating officer at a public company. I know a lot of different feminines that were attorneys that were in, different careers that they've been in for a long time. And all of a sudden, as they started to shift and awaken, what became more important to them became life purpose. So what does life purpose mean? Life purpose means, like, what does she want to do with her life? It's not about making the money. It's not about the things. It's not about the labels. It's not about the clothes or the makeup. It's not about any of those things. It's about how does she take the skill set that she has now and then translate that outside of herself into that life purpose.
So what does an awakened masculine look like?
So an awakened masculine, so remember when we were transitioning from unawakened to awakened, the masculine was trying to numb. The masculine was trying to numb feelings, trying to get into this energy of ghosting, and that numbing is in the form of, whether it's drinking or whatever addiction. It could be substance abuse. It could be working out. It could be throwing themselves into their work. It could be seeking out other partners. But as they get into this energy of numbing, at some point in that journey, none of that is going to fulfill them. So they get to a point where that numbing energy starts to get really old. It doesn't really create any kind of fulfillment or enjoyment. And at that point, the reason why they shift is because parallel to that, their feminine is detaching. She's thinking about her journey. She's thinking about her growth. She's thinking about her ascension and what she wants to do in her life as an awakened feminine. And when she takes that energy away is typically when that masculine starts to find that, hey, none of this like money, cars, things like having, casual relationships, none of those things are satisfying. So what he starts to do is he starts to get into a little bit of fear and angst and anxiety, right? He might try to send a casual text to the feminine, but when the feminine sees that it's still from the same energy of that in and out runner chaser energy, she will put a boundary up, right? And when he sees that she's not buying it like she may have the first 5-10 times, he definitely kind of goes back in after he tests the waters with her. He goes back to his journey, and he starts to face his wounds. He starts to face those wounds that he had been numbing for however long period of time, about why he was unable to commit, why he was unable to be in his heart space, why he was unable to give to something so beautiful that he was creating when they were in the bubble phase. So he becomes much more self-aware. He also starts to go into this hermit energy where he goes in, just like the feminine already has done, to really soul search, really look at himself, look at his faults, look at the way he's behaved in the past. And basically he looks at his old life is boring to him now. He's awake and now he can't go back to sleep. So now he has no choice but to fix this energy. And that awakened masculine, the traits that you would look for in awakened masculine is someone who is less selfish and more giving, someone who's more charitable, someone who's operating from their heart space, someone who's able to give love, receive love, and someone who has like more global thoughts around like, and I don't mean global like worldly, but I mean like outside of himself. It could be worldly, it could be global in that earthly perspective, but I'm talking about the way that he wants to create and what he wants to do with his life, and then his life purpose kicks in, right? So maybe he wants to execute his job differently. Maybe he wants to do something else and go into service, right? I'm not saying everybody is going to go in and change careers, right? Because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that most people shift when their consciousness shifts. They're looking to execute their lives in different ways. Because remember, this connection is about the raising the vibration of the planet. And you can only do that, one, when you're awakened and healed within yourself, and you go outside of yourself to share that light.
So what does union look like?
Well, I am going to answer the question about union of selves, because that, again, is what the twin flame journey is about, is this union of self. So what does union look like within a feminine? That's that goddess, empress, high priestess energy. She's whole within herself. She's in this energy where that bubble that she initially created with her masculine, she's recreated the bubble on her own. She's created that 10 of Cups energy on her own. She's creating, she's manifesting her dreams, she's executing her life purpose. She finds the light within herself, right? She becomes the light. She doesn't need the light outside of her. She doesn't need the light in the masculine to complete her. She's in this energy that she attracts this soul tribe also, which is a big critical component of this connection, is this soul tribe. And that typically happens between the awakened energy to that union of self. But finally, and most importantly, what an empress, high priestess, goddess looks like, she realizes that she has always been in union, and she doesn't feel separate from her masculine, even if she is not in sacred union with him.
What does union of self look like for the masculine?
So masculine, you'll find that in the masculine energy, when you go back and take a look at the journey of your own masculine, there were a lot of self-worth issues. A lot of ego energy came out initially in the beginning because they didn't feel confident and to have self-worth within themselves. So when you see your awakened masculine, you're going to see them be more heart-centered. He's going to be more confident when he comes forward. He's going to feel whole within himself. He's going to be in this energy where he's open to giving love and receiving it back. Because when he's in that energy of, the first two segments that we talked about, he has a very difficult time giving and receiving because of the self-worth issue. And then he has his own light to shine and his own purpose to execute. So when the masculine comes back, and you're sniffing out to see if he's in union of self, he's not going to just try to have a physical relationship with you. He's going to be in this energy of wanting to recreate a better bubble, a bigger bubble that you can spend a lifetime in, right? When he comes forward after he's in union with himself, and if your connection is for sacred union, there will be matched words with actions. There will be the energy of this no codependence from either side of the masculine and feminine. Both are working together in parallel to move forward together to execute whatever their contract is about, whether it's mission work, whether it's creating a commitment in a family, whatever their contract is about. But that whole energy of all the things that we've healed, from clinginess, from self-worth, from anger, from this energy of not feeling worthy of love, from these energies of having these wounds that, where we're angry and not necessarily heart-centered, all of those things are going to be gone and faded away, and it becomes a very healthy, detached connection. Why do I say detached? Because they're in union of self. There's nothing to be attached to. They've always been together. They've always been in union, even through separation, because this connection is and always will be, even without our bodies, energy, an energetic connection. It is beyond the 3D body, the skeleton, this body, all of it. It's all energy. It's all energy. And once you realize that you're never in separation is when true union of self happens. So anyway, we hope that this was a informative episode for all of you. And we'll be back again with episode 3, topic unknown at this time. Right, Sunena?
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
All right. Have a great day. Bye.